Over the past few weeks, we've been talking a lot about diet and how it affects your health and how much of which foods to eat with each meal. And some of you may be thinking, well, I've got my diet pretty dialed in, and I'm staying pretty physically active, and I'm still not seeing the results I want. I'm carrying around extra weight, or I feel like trash all the time, and I'm just not sure what to do. And one factor that you may not have considered yet is your stress levels. Now, by stress, I don't necessarily mean avoiding situations that might put you under pressure or avoiding situations that you don't like. Those are external events that we largely don't have control over. What we do have control over is how we respond to these events. And that's what I mean by stress. By managing our stress, I mean managing how we respond to the things that happen to us and the things that happen around us in our day-to-day lives. A few years ago, I had dropped a pretty significant amount of weight. I'm by no means a big dude now, but I was still about 25 pounds lighter than I am. I was pretty bean-polish. And I decided to try to start putting on some muscle mass, and so I started eating more and lifting heavily, and I kind of found myself in a cycle where I could either only start rapidly gaining fat or losing fat and muscle, and just staying kind of a skinny dude. And it wasn't really until I started to manage my stress levels that I started to see any kind of positive results. Stress is not always necessarily a bad thing. Our bodies are designed to handle acute moments in time where we need to respond to a life-threatening or dangerous event in order to survive. We release hormones that can raise our heart rate and release blood glucose into our bloodstream and basically prime us to run from a predator or a threatening event. Now, this is great if we actually are running from a predator like a tiger or a lion. But our lifestyles now, with deadlines at work and all sorts of commitments, a lot of us are walking around in this state of stress response 24/7. So our bodies are continually pumping out these chemicals, and eventually what happens is when we stay in this state for a prolonged amount of time, our body starts to essentially start thinking, holy crap, life sucks. I need to start saving away fat for the winter and for the hard times. I want to dump this muscle that's very expensive to hold on to, and I'm going to eat everything in sight. So losing fat and gaining muscle is not necessarily on your body's priority list when in this state of emergency response. So in order to get out of this response, as stated a little bit earlier, you're not going to be necessarily looking to avoid situations like deadlines at work or obligations to friends and family. Really what you're going to probably want to do is just be more mindful of when you are entering into this stressed fight or flight mode, and trying to internally manage that response. There are a few different strategies you can use to do this. One that worked really well for me was meditation. That was where I would take about 10 minutes every night. I started with 5 minutes just to get started, but I eventually worked up to 10, and then 15, and then 20 minutes. And I just set aside some time, and I closed my eyes, and I started breathing in slowly through my nose and out my nose. and I focused on my breath. And I would count to 10 breaths and restart. And I would just focus on my breath. Nothing else going on, no music, no TV, nothing like that. I just focused on my breath. I just breathed in and I breathed out. And I did that as long as I could. And, if I had things come to mind, like if something that I had to do the next day, or if something that pissed me off from earlier in that day, if that came to mind, I acknowledged it. I acknowledged whatever it was that came to my mind, and I let it go. I wasn't going to deal with it at that point in time. I think the acknowledging thing is very important. I think it's important to acknowledge your obligations and acknowledge your responsibilities. You shouldn't just run from your problems. However, it goes a long way to realize that those problems will be there the next day and that you will be able to handle them when the time comes. So focusing on your breath and taking time to live just in the now and just really focus on your body and focus on what is happening in that instance can help get you out of this chronic stress response mode. That's how meditation and breathing can really help out. Another strategy that can work is just to, throughout the day, just be a little bit more mindful of yourself when you start to tense up or when you start to realize yourself getting pissed off about something. Just take a step back, assess the situation, take a deep breath in through the nose again, and breathe out, and just acknowledge what's going on. Yes, maybe this asshole cut you off on the road, or maybe your boss is giving you some pressure that you really don't think you should be dealing with right now. But that's okay. You can't change what other people are going to do to you, but you can change how you respond to the things that happen to you. So just take a step back when these things happen. Breathe, reassess the situation, center yourself, and just be mindful that you're not going to die from that situation. And you know what? If you find yourself in a situation where you really might die, then it'd probably be okay to go ahead and let that stress response rock and roll. But most of us are not going to find ourselves dealing with that kind of thing on a day-to-day basis. So, in summary, stress could be what's holding you back. And by stress, I mean how you respond to the events in your life. Two methods that you might try are meditation and just being mindfulness. Those can go a long ways towards getting you out of this chronic stress response mode and working towards your goals more effectively. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or if you want any help practicing mindfulness and practicing meditation, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is rob@arthurhealth.com. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.